Very recently, I was in Ghana, and woman said, if we're walking on gold, why is it that we're so poor? What can you say to such a question?
There are about 50 to 60 countries in the world right now that are so-called resource-rich countries. They are extremely rich in oil, gas, and minerals, and yet half or more of their population lives below their poverty line. It's just not sustainable to have a situation of countries being mired in poverty. They can't continue to be dependent on aid. These resources present an opportunity that aren't going to be around forever. And we've got to act now before they're all exploited.
You see, abundance of misery is such a paradox. It ought to be the case that these revenues can transform the lives of the citizens. But then the opposite happens. It is the challenge to move the benefits of natural resources out of the hold of a smaller club of people and instead diversify the opportunity that it offers to a larger number of people. That's what will reverse the curse. And that's the most important issue of the day for minerals-rich countries.
I worked in the World Bank for 25 years. I remember that in particular my wife Jutta, who was working as a doctor in Nairobi in clinics, to criticize me that I was not doing anything against corruption. So that I left in the morning in suit and tie to visit, say, the Minister of Health to discuss it. Uncertain whether I really would achieve something, while she knew that she would see 100 patients that day. I met in the evening and again to challenge me. She would say, hey, you have given them a loan over $10 million, and we are hospitals, we are the nurses, we are the medicine. Here somewhere. So bad that I felt that everything we were trying to do was undermined and was destroyed by grand corruption. But more under pressure to whether something could be done.
My first work was basically to try and get the public procurement system of Nigeria working better. If countries don't have systems and procedures that would enable accountable and transparent use of resources, then the outcome would be not as great.
Just that the countries which are rich in natural resources were doing so badly. When trying to help in Nigeria, which sometimes billions and billions of dollars of oil income or gas, but at least create transparency about the income of the governments in these resource-rich countries. Their own people, their own parliaments, their own institutions could hold them accountable on what with this money. We thought it would be relatively easy to simply talk to the companies and ask them to publish what they pay to the governments. We were quite successful with this. Tony Blair was very strong in supporting that. George Soros, like Shell, for instance, he quickly said, yes, we are going to do that. But then
we are very often in places where we are mining assets that belong to the state. So it's that much more important that it is clear as to how we are benefiting, or the value of those assets are benefiting the public at large in the countries, and not ending up in the back pockets of government officials or offshore bank accounts. We pay in total $4 billion in taxes on a global basis, and we work to ensure that those benefits are applied to sustainable development in the countries where we operate. Transparency, I think, builds that consensus, that trust, which translates into good governance, which translates into stability of those countries.
We ran into difficulties. In some countries, local said you are not allowed to publish what you pay. You have confidentiality clauses in your investment agreements, and if you publish what you pay to us, we are going to renew your production rights.
Oil money is rent money. It's not worked hard for. It enters the treasury, you go and steal it. Come on, what did you do? You accomplished nothing. How is it that the child in Mali can have access to opportunities to be able to compete with a child in Singapore? How do we make that possible?
Of triumph was when President Obasanjo of Nigeria, and he said there, I am going to allow the companies operating in Nigeria to publish what they pay to me, to my government. And in fact, I will make it even mandatory. They have to publish what they pay, and I will publish what I receive. And that was basically the breakthrough, because
the fact that we could save up to this amount of money meant that we had additional resources to put into health and into education. Each person's incentives in life will determine the choices they make.
The EITI process is actually quite simple. It's a standard that requires that companies disclose taxes and other payments to governments, and for governments to disclose what they have received from companies. An independent administrator compares the figures and publishes them in an EITI report. This allows people to see what has been paid and if money appears to be missing. This process is overseen by representatives from government, companies and civil society in an EITI multi-stakeholder group.
I personally don't see many arguments against EITI. It is an initiative which allows for a consensus-building system of development, which is the only way ultimately that this will work. It helps to create a stable government and coherence in terms of the future that allows us to operate profitably and to the advantage of both ourselves, our stakeholders, and the place where we operate.
And predictable, high at a reasonable resources. A steady price is in the interest of. So if you have a car and you need gasoline, you have interest that this in natural resources don't widely swing. And the predictability in the segment on good governance. People notice there is poor governance if will suffer. Month to the other, change your life if suddenly you have to spend 90% of your savings on your heating oil and so on.
We live in an interdependent world. Those involved in the extractive industries have particular concerns, which are societal concerns, not merely their own, which require a different type of approach. So transparency seems to me to make a lot of sense, both politically as a former quasi-politician, as well as in terms of business.
You got to build that trust. You got to build those relationships. You got to build the confidence. I think being transparent, I think being open, I think being honest from start to finish is the only way to go.
Transparency is the first step. It's not the solution to reversing the resource curse. It's not the solution to all the problems that are associated with the extractive industry. But it's a really fundamental and necessary first step because it at least brings about the information that we need in order to then hold governments to account. And EITI is providing that mechanism for that information to come out. It's about all of us trying to enshrine transparency into our own national processes and making this really a global initiative and a global standard.
I think the most important thing that the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative has been about is that it brought everybody to the table. The battle against poverty can be won, but it's got to take everybody. It's got to take the private sector looking beyond the mega box of profits and seeing that they are successful only to the extent that environments where they do business really show successful citizens. Governments have to understand that their responsibility is to their citizens. And citizens have to understand that they've got the power to determine the character of leadership.